Well, for me, I was possessed. Like as somebody who didn't have any experience with any of this, I was at a very low point in 2017, which was the beginning of this 9-year cycle, which is interesting in itself. Been reflecting on that as we exit the year of the snake. But it was a 1 year, and Spirit was getting ready to take me through the gauntlet. And I see this all as lessons that are, ultimately led to the blessings. Although in the middle of it, it never feels like that. I mean, more so now because you have a deeper understanding. But, I was hanging around a lot of more nefarious creatures. That's a funny word. Nefarious individuals. And, I was at a different place in my life. I was very into the drug culture, and I was around a lot of Satanists at the time, and I didn't believe in any of it, so I didn't think much of it myself. So, but, when I look back, I found pictures of myself with my eyes. They weren't my eyes anymore, and maybe I'll send that picture over to you because I'm sure you'd like that for your research. But I started hearing voices. They were very, very rough, very mean, very trying to get me to kill myself constantly. I actually, ended up getting diagnosed with schizophrenia during that time because of the level in which they were coming at me. So I didn't know what to make of it because I didn't have this belief. They are the ones who cracked me open. Like I will say, it was the possession that created my spiritual awakening, which is a fucked up thing to say, and I'm aware of that. But that is 100% the truth. And from there, it was about 2 years later where I was still unwinding everything that happened in that year period. And that's when Metatron and Michael and Raphael started showing up. And that's when I started seeing Metatron's cube.
As I like to say, let's get into it.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm excited because I don't even think I've talked to you about this yet, Troy, but you sent me I've been on integration for a while. I've been deep in this spiritual work for about 5 to 7 years on the shamanic path. And I, became addicted to the work, and I actually got put on timeout. And during that timeout, I just had all of these boxes of problems. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to put all this stuff, like we were talking about Harry Potter before, like Dumbledore, when he pulls that out, I'm like, the universe and the angels are much smarter than me. So I'm just going to give you guys this, and I'm going to allow the answers to come in while I learn how to live like a regular human again. And during that time, you just happened to reach out at like 1 a.m. You sent me one of your YouTube videos, and I was like, this is exactly what I was looking for. So I'm excited to be on this chat with you today, brother.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that my work really sort of hit you and came through for you at exactly the right time. It is quite often when we surrender, when we're not trying, that is when the universe and angels, that just leaves our energy as well as our life just open for so many of the synchronicities and miracles that are best for us to just show up. So that's the art of surrender.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I got to say, that's probably been one of the more difficult parts of the path for me. I think a lot of people that come out of, certain backgrounds, we have a desire to control things, even though that's an illusion in itself. So I learned that inner work and that constant grinding was actually coming to a point where it was more detrimental than helpful. I'm always a huge proponent of the inner work. The inner work to me is what unlocks the magic, that recognition of self, recognition of source, and, unwinding the stories that can be, either from this life or lifetimes, and, finding that healing in that place. But if you just keep going, the rabbit hole really doesn't end. So,
Yeah. Yeah, of course, this is a never-ending story. I want to tie in pretty soon to how anxiety and emotions can attract and summon and feed into demons. But yeah, I want to talk about what you just sort of hit on with just this lifestyle or even addiction to inner work, even shadow work. This is what I've been hearing from some teachers in some spiritual circles lately, that it's actually by doing too much shadow work, trying to focus on like digging up your shadows all the time. And it's good to do a little bit of shadow work at first and like dig up your actual traumas that are messing you up. But yeah, it's that obsession, and sort of actually it becomes conditioning that you assume that you have any sort of a problem still at some point after you've done so much healing, and just trying to do more work, that actually creates more problems sometimes. Some people.
I agree with you. I think you know, in the beginning, it's really important to like understand our triggers, you know, and the things that give our body that constricted feeling, because then we can, you know, through the inner work, we can kind of diagnose and begin to take the energy out of those places. And you know, like I'm a firm believer, and we're going to segue at some point into you know, the demonic stuff and the exorcist stuff. But you know, to me, that's where those things latch onto. You know, like, to what I've noticed is that seems to be the weak spot in the aura, the feelings of like shame, insecurities, fear, judgment, guilt. These are the things that seem to, you know, like keep that hole open and allow things to get in and either attach or, worse yet, possess sometimes. So a key part of my work, and the reason that I've stayed so deep into it, is because that's what I bring back to the collective I work with, you know. So by understanding myself on a deeper level, I've been able to help other people also walk that path. You know, I've watched quite a few of your videos on YouTube now, and if you guys are listening, you better like, subscribe, and share, because this guy's got some gold out there that's coming from a guy who's been doing this work for a while now. You know, that shadow work can absolutely become an addiction too. And I think the great cosmic joke is one day we just recognized we were whole the whole time. But it takes a lot of limiting beliefs to get us to that place.
Thank you, Joshua. Yes, for everyone who is interested, my YouTube channel is Peaceful Rain, where this recording will also be posted. And yeah, I'm very much become close with the archangels, very deep into that work. That's really my lifestyle. I did grow up in a Catholic school in grade school, but then I left that, and so then I went on what you could call a really complex healing and spiritual exploration journey for many years. But what I've found truth in is the angels and archangels, and how they're actually like the voice and messengers and extension of God. Anyway, so what I'm doing with my YouTube channel, one of the things is angelic invocations, and the next one will be with Archangel Barakiel, an angel of blessings, divine blessings.
That's extremely funny, because that's the one I've been working with on and off over the last year. The archangels are actually the first ones to show up during my awakening after I got possessed. I was actually an atheist, and I went through a very rough spiritual awakening in 2017 because I didn't have any faith. I didn't believe in anything. I didn't really, you know, put much thought into it, and I was really like against religion in any way, shape, or form for most of my life. And so, you know, I was a little nervous when like Archangel Michael and Raphael and Metatron started showing up. I was like, well, this can't be good. Like, what are you guys here to do? And but they actually have led me on the path and become, you know, the energies that I work with the most in the work that, you know, we do. You know, I tend to follow their lead in there, and I do my best to listen. Sometimes the outside voices of the world are a little loud for me, a lot of conflicting energies. But you know, like they have been my go-to team since the beginning of my journey. So it's really cool that we get to connect on that.
Yeah, likewise. My journey's been similar. I think for a while I did have some, like, not consistent but on and off contact and awareness of Archangel Michael in my life at times. I'd call on him also for protection. Sort of more into my adulthood, but some teen years also I was introduced to him. But then it was like, it was more into the years after my walk-in, the early years, after I learned hypnosis and started being trained in hypnotherapy. And then I started working with some clients. And actually from the very first session I did with someone, Archangel Michael was there. I think he's like my primary Archangel companion or friend, and then the other Archangel also started showing up in hypnosis sessions. And I wasn't taught that, but that just became part of my natural work and path. Yeah, so I think they're actually more common than what a lot of people talk about even. Some people just haven't developed that sort of psychic and intuitive awareness of them. But there is some real truth to angels and archangels, especially going back to the early Hebrew and Judaic traditions, but actually I think their knowledge of them has transcended Judaism, because I've heard that I think it's a Sefer Yezirat, the book of the Sephirah. Nobody actually knows who wrote it. It transcends far into the past Judaism, Orthodox Judaism, and they don't know who wrote it, but that's become, of course, a big text for Kabbalah knowledge. Yeah, and one thing that I do, I just have to say that I wasn't taught, well, I was taught some of what I do now, but some of this just came to me naturally working with the archangels, and I tend to take everything with a grain of salt. I was raised from, especially throughout high school, more into the medical, medicinal Qigong and Chinese medicine, Oriental medicine concepts. Then I started to get interested a little bit into shamanism, a little bit of also angels and spirits along the way. But yeah, I actually follow what there's evidence for, and I test everything that I do. And when I find the evidence that stands or can like stand against my challenges of it and proves itself to me, then that's when I consider it to be true. And that's definitely what the archangels have done. Every time they reach out to me, every time they tell me something, I ask who they are, I test them. I don't just take it with blind faith. I need to make sure they're also not demons trying to pose as angels deceiving me, because I've actually encountered that myself. So yeah, although angels are real, you've got to also be discerning and careful in this field.
I think that's an important thing to state there. I work on the more magical aspects of things, and one of the things that we teach people is communicating with their spirit guides, less so with the angels, only because we tend to work with whatever it is the person believes, right? Like, I think everybody's entitled to their free will and their structures of what it is that they're creating within this reality. So, I don't necessarily, like in my personal work, I teach the angel work, but when I'm, beginning with someone, I allow the process to be what it is for them and to see what evolves naturally. But in that, like if you're not very intention based, you leave yourself wide open to things like that, like you got your, shapeshifters and tricksters and, things that I'm sure you've encountered. So, I mean, getting really, if you're working with the angels, in anything really, like you should just be really intentional with what you're creating, like what you intend is what you create. So, like it's important to really do that. And I just want to say that I'm really impressed with your background of Eastern medicine and blending that with the not only hypnosis but the etheric, because I believe that's the future, right? And like generally people that are a little ahead of the curve are always going to be called a little crazy, but we always, like the more we document what it is we're experiencing and what happens in the clients, the evidence becomes irrefutable. And science is all, this is my theory, but I tend to be on more the metaphysical side. Science is always trying to prove what the mystics have always known. So I don't bother myself with that as much, and the same thing, like I don't get bound by anybody else's teachings, because, we wouldn't have really gone farther as a society if we were just, following the same playbook. We're here on an evolutionary path, and we're experimenting with what works and what doesn't work. And, the more we're in, direct contact with our angels and our guides, the more evidence we have that what we're doing is making some big shifts. And I'm sure that you've seen a lot of that in your clients. After watching some of your videos, I feel that on you.
Yeah, definitely. My path has become both like energy medicine as well as etheric medicine. One thing is, it was probably around 4 years ago after my walk-in that I was working with a group, especially during the pandemic. We were doing weekly Zoom meetings, but working with a group of friends, and they were doing all kinds of light work. We were doing like sending energy and blessing parts of the planet, things that came up. And one of them got a message or a name from her angels, or angels that just a name or a title that's like etheric engineer, and nobody else seemed to resonate with that, but I chimed in that that's actually a lot, or very much in alignment with what I do. Many of my ancestors have been machinists, technicians, carpenters, weavers, people who work with their hands but in intricate technical ways. And so I totally appreciate the arts myself, especially physical hands-on arts, but I was never much of the like machinist, mechanist type. So what my path has taken me down into is in my studies of energy medicine, which now I focus mainly on Reiki, some in person but also online, as well as angelic Reiki. And so it's become definitely this blend, and even what's been quite miraculous and sometimes even shocking to me is to do angelic Reiki sessions, which typically are remote or by distance, but they could be in person. But over and over again, I've treated sensitive people, especially removing demons and dark spirits and entities from them. It's, I say, 113% effective. Nothing can test or challenge the archangels. And sometimes I even experience like quite often physical pain relief and healings right away, right after the entities are removed. Or there was one client I had that also, I think she was particularly sensitive to energies, but during the session, I guess she was experiencing she described it like ropes of material and energy just being pulled out of her limbs, through her hands and feet, and it's probably a lot of blocked energy too. But yeah, this becomes very physical, and so perhaps we can also segue into more of the demon experience and management talk. But
I think that's a beautiful thing. And I think, that's one of the things I teach in one of my courses is like you're only limited by what you believe you're capable of.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's why, when the more and more we engage in this work and the more we have that experience of the divine, the more we begin to chip away at those belief structures that are keeping us in place. And I just want to comment, I think it's super cool that I sound like a fanboy. I think it's super cool that you come from a family of machinists and weavers, and because like from my end, I'm like, well, yeah, that definitely make like I see like an energetic architectural master in you, right? Like a master of the energetics, and that is keeping in line with what your lineage has done for generations, from what it sounds like. So I think that's very cool, and that's kind of how it works, because all of that, from an epigenetic standpoint, is went into creating all that is you, right? And so that is passed down. I come from concrete men also work with their hands. I could fix anything, and then I got into this work too. 5 years ago I was working in a factory, so now we're evolving into this work. So that's cool. I just want to also say I can feel your energy. So when I work with people or I'm in close proximity, you have a very light and angelic energy about you. It's very powerful and comforting. So to me, when I'm in resonance with somebody like that, it shows me the amount of work that they've done in not just this life but lifetimes. So I just want to once again say, if anybody's listening here, you should book a session with Troy.
Thank you again, Joshua. So I've been on this path for 12 years of demon banishing, you could call it. Other work along the way too. But I'm curious to hear more about your experiences, like maybe start with how you got maybe thrown into or involved in encountering demons and learning how to banish them too.
Well, for me, I was possessed. Like as somebody who didn't have any experience with any of this, I was at a very low point in 2017, which was the beginning of this 9-year cycle, which is interesting in itself. Been reflecting on that as we exit the year of the snake. But it was a 1 year, and Spirit was getting ready to take me through the gauntlet. And I see this all as lessons that are, ultimately led to the blessings. Although in the middle of it, it never feels like that. I mean, more so now because you have a deeper understanding. But, I was hanging around a lot of more nefarious creatures. That's a funny word. Nefarious individuals. And, I was at a different place in my life. I was very into the drug culture, and I was around a lot of Satanists at the time, and I didn't believe in any of it, so I didn't think much of it myself. So, but, when I look back, I found pictures of myself with my eyes. They weren't my eyes anymore, and maybe I'll send that picture over to you because I'm sure you'd like that for your research. But I started hearing voices. They were very, very rough, very mean, very trying to get me to kill myself constantly. I actually, ended up getting diagnosed with schizophrenia during that time because of the level in which they were coming at me. So I didn't know what to make of it because I didn't have this belief. They are the ones who cracked me open. Like I will say, it was the possession that created my spiritual awakening, which is a fucked up thing to say, and I'm aware of that, but that is 100% the truth. And from there, it was about 2 years later where I was still unwinding everything that happened in that year period. And that's when Metatron and Michael and Raphael started showing up. And that's when I started seeing Metatron's cube, and I had no background with geometry, let alone sacred geometry. I'm also wearing it under here. Yeah, I see that right there. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is, that became part of Metatron's cube became a huge part of my journey. That and the flower of life, which I had tattooed on my hand for the similar reasons. I see I see those as, we'll get into that, I guess, but Sandalphon and Metatron is how I work with those two particular symbols. But so I started working with the angels very deeply. I would spend 40 to 60 hours in meditation for the first time in my life, having never really prayed or anything. Going from that to 46 to 60 hours and just soul searching, and then beginning to see silhouettes of the angels show up in my third eye, and then beginning to feel I began to see colors, right? Like I would feel their energy, like rays of light come down. And then, then they began to start putting things in my trajectory in my life, the blessings that you were speaking about earlier, the blessings of finding someone to work with to be able to cultivate the gifts that were showing up, and realizing that what I went through was an experience that was ultimately leading me to my life's purpose, or part of my life's purpose anyway. So, from there, like I really I started in on the inner work that I'm a huge proponent of in the beginning. I just started unwinding a lot of these stories, because it's important when you're holding space for other people to not freak out when the weird shit starts happening. That's kind of the running joke within my circle is, weird stuff's going to happen. So you want to be able to have a good solid sense of who you are and knowing that you can handle what comes at you. So it was 2 to 3 years before I started doing exorcism work, and it just started happening by accident. I started in by doing psychic readings. I did mediumship. I worked in mediumship. I also do what I call spiritual energy reviews, which I will tap directly into someone's field and then just look at the chakras and look for the psychological conditions that are creating the energetic flow blocks. So, but from there, I began to start seeing things more, or I began to start feeling them more. To me, when I am encountering demons, or there's a lot of different stuff. I'm sure you're aware, it's not just strictly demons. You got parasites, you got all sorts of weird things out there that people pick up either in the dreamscape or just through living life and being in certain places. But what, so, like that started evolving, and I began to become a little bit more clairsentient. And I started to feel that. And sometimes, I don't know if you've experienced this, but I'll feel something before a client even books with me. I'll know they're coming. And then when they show up, I'll be like, me and you, we need to talk because this thing, like whatever this feeling is, need to go. But yeah, from there, it's just been a little bit of a wild ride. It's led me, down the path of working in implant removal, psychic surgery, and just working with a team of angels and an army of angels. I use a lot of different, I work almost strictly with the angels and people's highest selves and spirit teams in the sacred space I work with. But that is, it's hard to really not lock down a system, because everyone can be a little bit different. Like you kind of have a foundation, but each person is different too, and what they've experienced is different. And sometimes I find that those things can be weaved in cross-dimensionally. I don't know, is that something you've experienced?
Yeah, definitely. Of course, everyone is very different in their what I call mind, body, emotion, spirit complex. And yeah, everyone's different. Everyone treats things differently. Everyone has different, like, a whole complex of beliefs. Different sensitivities, different ways of sensing or seeing things, like with their actual ESP senses, or just in the way that they receive things. Those who are sensitive in this realm. Yeah, I guess one thing that I do, or I guess it's similar to you, of course each session is different, each client is different, but I like my own structure, or having a certain level of organization and structure in what I do. And so actually what I do is, I think I mentioned this earlier, angelic Reiki. And that is really a collaboration process, I'd call it, with the archangels. And it is like a whole multi-page process that I read through, invoking them, casting energy with them, divine energy, holding space, tuning into the client. And yeah, then it's, for me, I can, like, quite often, especially for the bigger, badder demons, the angels do show me and allow me to see what the demon looks like as the angels are treating them and taking away the demon. And there have been times that I've worked with the client, and especially Archangel Michael shows me these things, but he's actually allowed me to see and watch him and some of his warrior angels literally detain a demon, and then essentially he reads them their divine Miranda rights before they're taken to what I understand is purgatory prison. So that's sort of where I'm at now with sort of the structure of what I know and what I work with. But of course, in each session, then there's not only other angels that come in, some new ones introduce themselves to me. There's other divine beings. Sometimes I sense other types of spirits, animal guides, spirit guides around people. Sometimes dragons also participate.
Yeah, I love this work. I love this work. Isn't it so magical, man? I love talking about this in this day and age, man. It's so cool.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question about your process just for a second? Because I have to. Do you feel like that is the more that you've gotten structured with the beginning invocation, that's added power to it as you've continued to work with people?
It definitely does. Yeah, there are some invocations I've come across that I think are more ancient and more powerful. But yeah, what I have to say is invocation is powerful. Words are proven to be powerful. Especially I was reading just recently in a Reiki book that actually tells and shares a lot of the original Reiki knowledge and techniques that were practiced by Usui and Hayashi in the early days that have been pretty much forgotten in America. And it was talking about the Japanese knowledge of, I think I'm saying this right, Kododama, which is the power of words. And it's really ancient in their culture that they recognize that speaking certain words at certain times is powerful, and there are certain words, like for example, that they don't say at weddings, such as cut and break. There are certain words that they don't say at times because they believe that some more negatively suggestive words can bring about a negative outcome. Yeah, words are powerful, but invocation, positive, absolute invocation with certainty of a being, is calling that in. Like, actually, what I've learned and what I've experienced and been taught and told by others is that angels are, like, always available and present in each moment to us. But it's especially us with our free wills, humans, that need to request and give the permission for their help. Otherwise, they're not going to do much most of the time. They kind of just sit there and watch until we ask for their help. And then once we do invoke them, once we do pray to them and ask for their help, then they step in, they banish demons, they heal people, they heal our clients. Like literally just the other day, I got a call. This is quite one of the more rewarding parts of what I do and this type of work is I got a call for a client who, a young woman whose vision just went out spontaneously when she was in public, and basically everything went black for her. She was driving, and so that was quite scary. She was able to pull over though, and then I pretty much impromptu did an angelic healing invocation first and called in the angels I work with, and especially like Raphael, Gabriel, Michael, and Metatron. And we went in. I actually etherically sort of visited her in her car and saw the scene. And what I saw was that indeed there was like a black mass, some sort of black dark being that was attaching to her and causing her blindness. I sent divine healing Reiki energy to her, and the angels did too. They, of course, took the demon away. And then a short time later, I got a call from her that her sight had returned. So that's how real some of this is. Like, demons can not only cause blindness, deafness, major illnesses of all sorts, but then as soon as they're removed, then the illness goes away. Even chronic illnesses, sometimes they're caused by either demons or entity attachments that are like staying on the person, keeping them sick, keeping some part of them dysfunctional. Yeah, it gets real.
You know, that's a beautiful story. I love those stories. That is powerful, brother. And the world needs more people doing that level of work, man. You need to, if you're not teaching your methods, I see that for you at some point, man. And I will be in that class because I always like to add to whatever it is I'm doing too.
Yeah,
you know,
certainly.
I think we're here to share information. Sorry, there's a delay here. I'll let you go.
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm that I'm putting together my manuals, especially to teach Reiki, but then there's going to be more, of course, that I'll teach for demon banishment. But yeah, that's on the way.
That's awesome, man. The world needs it. And, you know, this is, you know, it's interesting because I have had an interesting relationship with demons in the sense that I don't think it's traditional, but I do it, you know, it's part of my inner work was of getting out of the victim was recognizing that they absolutely came and awoke me to a deeper reality in life. But at the same time, they didn't really want to let go, which is that's where I feel like that's when they start making people sick. And they start, you know, continuing to suck on energy. You know, I see it in the astral more. You know, the thing I will see is like when people start to spiritually awaken on a deeper level, their light gets bigger, right? And then it just attracts all of these things that like to suck on light. And that's where, you know, like I see like generally when I see demons attached, for the most part, it's right at the back of the neck. It's like the Matrix to me. Like, that just could be my personal symbolic library, but I usually see them just hooked right in, and then they're threaded into different places in the body, and they're like playing it like a typewriter. They're playing on the emotions. What's your experience with that? I'm always interested. This is fun for me. I get to hear somebody else's experience because I'm also one who just kind of picked this up as I go, and I'm just using the library in which I was, you know, gifted through different sessions.
I do love your description of like the back of the neck, which is important. I'll comment on that, but then also certain spots on the body, of course, that probably corresponds to chakras and where there are weaknesses and toxic emotions in the chakras. That totally makes sense. Definitely, I've found that anxiety, worry, contempt, resentments, anger, especially, and hatred, whether it's toward your partner, toward someone else, various toxic emotions, also the 7 deadly sins like greed, maybe abusive lust, toxic pride, things like that. Also even gluttony, not being aware of how you're eating food and what foods you're eating can affect this. But yeah, there are lots of, pretty much the whole range of unconscious and negative emotions do have, like you said, certain keys, certain notes, certain codes that I think are magnets, like you said, kind of a key that attracts demons, specific types of demons. What I've been taught, actually, primarily through the seraphim and angels, they've explained this to me, that there are spiritual ecosystems, and that, for example, like drug addicts on the streets, there are specific types of entities, usually lower level, but spirits and entities that like live in a part of the spiritual ecosystems in the etheric world, and they like attach to and prey on people who do drugs and check out, and basically just intoxicate themselves and just don't want to be here in reality. Same with alcohol too. The people who just get drunk just to get drunk, not even sometimes not even for fun, but just because they're addicted to it. There are specific types of spirits, alcoholic entities that do attach to those people and siphon and suck, like you said, feed on those people's energy. Sometimes, especially if a person already has certain weaknesses or dark propensities within their chakras and their personality, sometimes a truly darker spirit will attach to someone who's drunk or intoxicated and make them commit crimes and evil acts, depending on the person and the substance.
That's my experience for a long time. Like I came up as an alcoholic and a drug addict. Like that's where I got a master class in demons. I didn't realize that until I got into the shamanic world, and it was actually a story that my shaman told me. I love telling this story. She talks about the shaman initiate and how he's going out into the woods one day, and it's like, this is your big night. You're going to be blessed by the good spirits and the angels and your ancestors, and just go out there and enjoy it. So he goes out into the darkness, and he gets ripped to shreds. All the evil spirits, the demons, they come out and they just rip him to multiple pieces. And then in the morning, the angels come back and put him together. His power animals come back and put him together. His ancestors come. And he goes back to the tribe, and he's like, what was that all about? And the elders of the tribe say, you should be thankful for everything that ripped you apart, I hold dominion over. And I guess that's been my path of the understanding of these things, and why, and it's so beautiful to see somebody who walked a different path to understand it, which I highly recommend to anybody who's listening. That you could do the same with just going directly into working with the angels, or having a guide such as Troy to guide you through the easier parts of this journey. There are easier paths, but I absolutely see that, and I see a lot of so I actually had quit drinking for many years, and earlier this year I decided to have a few drinks, and my energy was in a lot of different places, and I wanted to see, is this something that I can be with now? And immediately I began to feel these things on the outside of my aura as soon as I let that guard down. So needless to say, I had a few times that I drank, and then I walked away from it again, because it's just, I think in the big scheme of things, there's more things that are important than a little, liquid fun. We could, a nice arcade seems just as joyful these days.
Yeah, for real. A few things. Just on that last bit, you were commenting earlier on Sandalphon and Metatron. Just like a week or two ago, I was meditating, and then I also saw Sandalphon, but I felt this like joyous, happy energy come up from the earth and into my lower energy body, and his message was to pop into joy and then just stay in that and let the resplendent times roll.
Oh man,
my most recent angelic invocation video, guided meditation, my YouTube channel, is invoking Archangel Sandalphon and his grace and joy. Yeah, so that also ties into emotional states. I'd say if you do ever have, those of you who are out there, I don't drink very often, but I have like a few drinks a year usually with family and friends. And if you do that, if you do have alcohol of any sort, wine or beer or anything else, what is important is your emotional state. I also channeled information in another video from my Seraphim last year, in which he actually goes into some detail about the importance of setting an intention before you even consume, especially alcohol, but foods too, does matter. And I'm getting back into kind of ancient and essential Reiki knowledge and practice of blessing my food with divine energy before I even eat it. Otherwise, so many foods that get cooked, get processed in different ways. The vital energy, all of the energy just gets wiped out of it and distorted. But if you're blessing your food and you're restoring, even imprinting the food with like divine energy, and you're also getting back into daily practice of Reiki, and you're doing the work on yourself, you're doing light work on yourself, and truly healing yourself day by day, layer by layer, then if the food you're eating is also blessed with high vibrational energy, then that's just so much less dense energy for your body to then have to break down and alchemize and then contend with. And it just, it really keeps you on a higher track. With the work I've been doing on myself, and I guess this regular, kind of frequent now, these angelic healings, I feel that a lot of my energy has become resonant with diamond light energy, just really bright, clear, sometimes joyous, high vibrational, just
I can feel your energy. It's wild because there's not too many people that can that I feel their energy on this level. Usually, like it's very high vibrational, high vibrational, and it's pleasant. I mean, I honestly, do you think at this point sometimes we don't even have to necessarily do some of the work? We just are that, and we're just bumping our energies against other people and creating transformations we don't even know about. Sometimes I feel like God sent his warriors down here, or Source sent his warriors down here, warriors of love, warriors of the heart, warriors of peace. And we're just out in the world doing things, and we don't even recognize the impact we're making some days. Yeah, we do the sessions and stuff, but man, what about just saying hi and thank you to that guy that held the door at the store for us, or saying thank you to the cashier? I mean, I think it's beautiful to have this many people on the planet right now. I don't feel like it's been like this for a long time.
Yeah, I agree with you. By the way, I also friendly greet and try to converse with each cashier I interact with. They deserve our respect and friendliness. Partly because I've also been there in years past in cashier job.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely.
Yeah. So say hi to your cashiers, get to know them a little bit, converse with them. It really makes a difference in their day. By the way, Joshua, I also want to say that I feel your energy, and I feel that you've been doing this sort of work and path in other lifetimes. And it's of course awesome just for you and I and other bright souls, awakened and awake souls, to really step into our power and light at this time, especially what I've been observing and feeling and connecting with more is the energy of 3i Atlas as it's coming closer to our planet. On December 19th, that will pass by, and then that's probably going to be like the peak of the initiation for humanity. There's kind of what you were talking about. There's this layer of us light workers, like on some level, maybe a subconscious level, I feel that maybe there's more I could be doing, more people I could be helping. There's certainly a lot of people who need some help and can benefit and are interested in what I do right now. But I can only handle so many people each day and do so much each day, and I also prefer to be kind of like low-key and on the organic level and not be hypnotized and overtaken by this AI craze. But
oh my god, that is then there's
then I keep reminding myself too that I'm exactly where I need to be for everyone else, and I just keep watching also these sort of threads and layers and themes of talking about the subconscious, the psyche, shadow work, even some like advertisers and more mainstream people are talking more about angels, about spirits, about their non-physical energies. And it's really awesome that wasn't the case 5 to 10 years ago. And so that shows that there's this huge, growing, like exponentially and quickly rising consciousness. And I also keep reminding myself that maybe there's not even much that I need to do right now. And this is an organic process that all of humanity is awakening, and each soul does get guided also with their own free will, but with spiritual guidance to exactly where they need to be, the teachers and materials and information they need to be attuned to and exposed to for their path. And it's beautiful to just be a participant for some, and for many that I can reach and can touch and bless in this process. Be supportive in that way.
I think that's gonna grow. I tie into the numerology stuff, and like this year in particular is in the Chinese zodiac, it's also the year of the snake, and I think a lot of us healers, one of the things that we had to drop, or at least I saw it a lot in my community. First, I just want to state that I'm not projecting what my reality of the year was onto anybody, but I saw a lot of healers kind of step back and kind of shed some more of what they thought their mission was, to become more into that beingness, which is then a vibration that we can share, because that beingness is not an anxiety-driven state, right? It's just like, it's a calm, soothing vibe that people can then, understand. But I feel like what I have seen the last few years, and I don't pay much attention to the news. People talk to me about Three Eye Atlas, but I tend to get most of my information internally. That way I'm not overly digitally manipulated at this point. I'm very careful where I source any information. It's usually organic meetings like this. So if it comes up here, then it's valuable. That's how I feel about how things have been working. But like one of the things I've seen is, I feel like a lot of these people that are waking up and have been waking up over the last 2 years are going to need a bunch of different teachers, right? Because I don't know about you, but waking up for me was very rough. I went through very rough awakening because I had a lot of egoic structures in place of what I thought this reality was. So when they all came crashing down, it was very, very rough, because nothing I knew was true. And I realized that I was living the paradox of what might actually be existing in this world. I think that's why it's going to be important for people that have a knowledge of both the physical and the ethereal worlds to help guide people into that, next stage of their evolution, because it can be disarming, like for me it was. And, I consider myself a pretty strong guy, and it shattered me, and it took me years to put myself back together. Now, that is also part of my journey, and I understand that was part of the work I did so I can help other people do the same thing. I really worked a lot on the psychological aspect of things, because there was a lot of that were intertwined with the energetics. So I see that, entering this new 9-year cycle, the year of a fire horse. Fire is representative of transformation, horse about movement. So, we're shedding, harmonizing with, the energies of winter, and, beginning to get ready for the plant of spring, and, seeing what the benevolent universe is going to put in front of us next.
Yeah. I know I'm not the only one. I know other friends I've spoken with too, awake and lightworker friends. Some of them are teachers, some of them are healers, working together. I've been seeing my circles and community growing lately in alignment with each other, exactly with each other and what we have to offer. it's really beautiful and interesting to watch this happen. But yeah, I feel that 2026 and the year of the fire horse is a year to get back on the horse and basically just let the horse take you, gallop across the pasture, um, symbolically and metaphorically, but energetically too. Just as the snake has taught us to shed our skins and come remove the mask, as Sriya Alice also has done, and come back to our authentic selves. Um, yeah, the fire horse I feel also is going to be a year of community. 2026 numerologically adds up to a one. Um, one community, one people joining together. We're also seeing that in many other circles. I know some Indigenous friends in British Columbia who are very active in basically standing up against the corruption that the Canadian government is doing right now. And they're literally calling in 1 million, sometimes, people at once for each rally. And it's really amazing what they're able to do. And that's not even because they're like directly communicating with people. I've heard from them, I've met them. They literally send their call out to the creator, like with their drum, and then 1 million people show up. That's how powerful that sort of call and connection can be.
Yeah. You know, they one of the things I heard this year on my travels is the drums calling the people and the bells calling the gods. That's probably why they took the bells down at churches, but that's a whole story for another day. maybe we'll have to do a couple more of these down the road.
Definitely. Yeah, we definitely have a lot more to talk about. This has been almost an hour now. I should probably wrap up, but yeah, let's do more of these conversations. Yeah. It's been lovely to chat with you, Joshua.
Where can people find you? Sorry,
yeah,
there's a low bandwidth on this end. There's a little bit of a delay. Yeah, I just want to say I'm gonna, as soon as you upload this to YouTube, I'm just gonna share this with my followers. Any of you that know me know that I'm very selective who I work with in the community, and Troy was one of those that was divinely guided to me. So if you're seeing this and you made it all the way to the end, first, like, subscribe, and share. Second, this is a gentleman that, like I said, is divinely guided to me and gave me a big piece of information that I needed on my journey. So, proof is in the pudding. That's what I always have to say.
Thank you, Joshua. Yes, it'll be available to the public soon. I'm just finishing up some last minute touches on my website, peacefulrain.com. And right now I also have Peaceful Rain as a page on Facebook, a business page, as well as anyone can friend request, and I'll probably accept it if you have like an actual photo. But Troy J. Bacon is my personal Facebook profile, and the Peaceful Rain community is a group I run on Facebook. And I post in there daily, usually always some very positive and uplifting, valuable spiritual content. More will be coming soon. I have a lot more materials they'll be launching, sort of together, maybe not simultaneously, but in alignment with peacefulrain.com. And that's not only going to be for my work of Reiki healings and demon banishment, but that's also to be growing the community, the alliance, I call it, of demon banishers. And this is a mission that I'm on with Archangel Michael. I've agreed to be a conduit, basically, of him and the archangels. The mission is to remove all demons from planet Earth. And I can't do that alone, of course, but we can do that in an alliance. a demon banishment movement. So that is my mission, and those are some places people can contact me. Oh, I also I'm on Substack, just as Troy J. Bacon or Alchemy Tales, and of course YouTube here on Peaceful Rain.
Awesome. And you can find me at on Facebook at j.d.radewan, Radewan, and you can check out my website at werewolfenterprises.com. As you have so eloquently spoken about some people showing up with animals, Wolf has led me on a journey this year and most of my life. So I guess with that, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you guys for listening. Once again, like, subscribe, and share. And that's pretty much it, guys. You got anything last thing to say?
Just that I wish everyone to stay safe, stay blessed, and I wish you peace.
All right. Many blessings upon the road, my friends.